So this is going to be a Beat Saber Custom Avatar tutorial with full body tracking, as a lot of tutorials out there are outdated, and this tutorial will assume that you already have an avatar made within Blender and already export to Unity. So what we're going to do is we're going to make a new scene here. New scene, we're going to call this video example. Drag that in. We are going to make that scene, move it. Okay, so we start fresh, right? So what you want to do is you first want to grab your model. Now, I prefer to have it as a prefab, because once you make a when you make a prefab, you don't have to worry about constantly. If you make a mistake, you can always just re-put the model in and do it yourself. Then once you do that, this prefab's already complete. Never mind. All right, we'll delete it. Let's make a new prefab. Create prefab. All right, bring it in. Now we can grab your. Now I can grab your model, and this is where there's special. There are special keywords you have to put in for. Let's see. You have your head, left hand, right hand, left foot, right foot, and then pelvis. Those are the 6. If you only want to use your 2 hands and head, you just put head, left hand, right hand onto the respective body parts. Let's do that right now. Control D to duplicate. And we'll rename these as such. Go. Okay, again. Then you take these. Now, what I usually do is I usually unpack the avatar, because this is annoying to have to constantly change. So I usually do to unpack. You go to prefab. You go unpack completely, which lets you drag these 4 game objects out. You can delete you can delete the game object called metal. Ignore the name of the title. That's just the name that I chose to identify, because this is an edit. But that's getting off topic. So now you have your head, left hand, right hand targets, right? What you want to do with those is take the head target. You take the head, and you want to position it to here. Now, there's a better way to do this rather than doing it manually. So let's delete those. You go to armature, hips, and you go to spine, chest up, all the way down to the head. And this is where you can do. You just type head, drag it down. There we go. And you can do the same thing with the left and right arms. Now we can use this in both menus here. Very empty. This will be the left hand, right hand. Take both these, and you bring them down. Now, now, if the head doesn't look right, you can always readjust it later and reposition that to your liking. But this is just a good baseline to get. So now you got your targets, right? Great, and you'd be like, oh, great, and now I can go into here and go to here and add a animator and add my avatar and slap on the scripts for that come with the Beat Saber package, right? Not yet, because there's a couple other things you need to do before you can actually do that. So there's a special rotation you have to have for either left hand, right hand. The y-axis has to point into the wrist. So I'm gonna do that right now. So the arrow's pointing that way. You just take the red x-axis and rotate it until it's 80 degrees. And it should be pointing into the wrist. There you go. That one is done. Might have. Nope, we're good. Gonna do a fancy little thing here. I'm just gonna copy the position of that one, right hand, paste it, just flip the rotation, and do the same thing here. And then we gotta flip the x-axis. You do that, and this is what you would have if you would just wanted to have an avatar that just had head and left right. So this is all done, and let's say you don't want to do legs. You would go to vrik manager. It should auto-populate all your. Yep, it as it did. You don't need to fill out any of this. The older videos I was showing you how to do targets and such. That just adds a bunch of complexity that you don't need to have. These can be left blank, and you can go on your merry way. Now, personally, I would rather just have the animator in here. Save the new prefab. Go out. Drag the new prefab. And then add it here. Makes it much easier. And then what else you would add is the pose manager. So what the pose manager does, you can pose one hand to make it look like your avatar is holding sabers, because obviously you won't be able to make it look like you're holding sabers. Now, this tool lets you do it in Unity rather than going into Blender and making a key shape for the hands, which is, if you don't have the knowledge, this tool is here for that. I'm going to do the left shoulder. Oops. All right. And this would, if you would do this here, you would just bend them like this, and you would repeat this for every single hand, or every single finger on your, and there we go. That's all done. Now to what you do, use your left hand, a mirror, depending on which hand you did, you have to choose. I did the left hand, so I had to hit mirror left hand pose. If you did right hand, you would hit mirror right hand. Do that, you see the other side updates, and then you can save close. You can reset the local rotations, and then you save open. Now you have open and closed hands. Yeah. And then there's one more thing you need to add, which is the avatar descriptor. You know you got the names right when these pop up. Now I do need to fix the rotations of the targets. It's not a problem. And then just go to the y-axis. There we go. Maybe 180 degrees. And copy that. Let's go to the right hand and paste it in. There we go. Now, I would go even more in depth and adjust everything, fine tune it to my liking. But this video is going to be already long enough. Just about it for a just about it for a custom avatar to make with Unity. Again, this is assuming you already have one ready to go. If you don't have one ready to go, you can there's a big library within the Monostable you can download avatars from. That's it. Once you're happy with it, you would go here, and we gotta fill this out. One more thing we need to do. Again, save often. And once you do that, now there's one thing I do need to preface is that make sure your materials you either use a third party shader that supports Beat Saber. Poyomi is a great option if you want to if you want to stick with your shaders. If you don't have that, there are Beat Saber shaders included with the SDK, which you can get on the BSMG wiki. Once you have configured shaders how you like them, you can go to Window. You would go to Avatar Exporter, click this button, and it will export your avatar into the .avatar file that Custom Avatars uses to put it into the game. Now, there's a couple of common errors you can get. One is where the material doesn't look right, like it looks like a bright white. That means you have a user shader that doesn't support Beat Saber. You have to use one of the Beat Saber support shaders. And another common error is if your character is stuck in a T pose is stuck in a T pose. That now that was an error that used to be very mystified because there's a lot of at play here to make it work. But now it's become simple enough that majority of the time it might be you just misspelled one of these targets. That's it. That's all you have to do to set up a custom avatar for in 2025. Alright, this is an addendum to the previous part because I said this was a full body tracking avatar tutorial. So all you need to do is you go here, go into prefab because it's how I set it up. You create 3 more objects, that being the left foot, right foot, and pelvis. Now, the order here does matter, and just like how I did the head, left, and right hand, you can, if you want to, do the same referencing method of going down the hierarchy of your armature to get the reference points, which is honestly much easier than having to click and drag it. But I personally like just dragging it myself. But there, delete that one, and you get the right leg, then you game object. This one's going to be right foot, and then pelvis is pelvis. This one, yeah, I typically just drag it into a spot, but this seems a bit faster. Empty pelvis. Drag that and put it there. Now that's not it, because as I said before, you need to worry about rotation because every tracker has a specific way it needs to be rotated. These ones, the green arrow, the y-axis needs to point downward into the foot. So that would be just about like this. Just a little bit, it doesn't be too much. Now you can fine tune this and to get as accurate as you want, and then that's it. You would do the same window after exporter, click this, it would run through scripts and add all the stuff to it, and then it would upload it to it would create the avatar, and then you can put it into Beat Saber. And that's it.